In this tutorial, we're going to go through the steps to prepare a stakeout plan. Now, the example we're going to be doing is just a simple building and simple parking lot. So we'll be staking out both the foundation and the curb. So the first thing we want to do is we want to open up a template for stakeout. Now, if you don't have a template, I'm going to leave a link in the description that will include the template that we'll be using for this demonstration. And then once it's open, we're going to do a save as. And we're going to save this as a drawing in our project. We'll just call it foundation and curb stakeout. And save. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to XREF our proposed layouts for what we're going to be staking out. So we're going to go to our XREF manager and we're going to hit the DWG. And we're going to go ahead and insert our layout. Okay, so here's our building up here and our parking lot just below. Again, very simple, just a good thing for practice. Okay, now that we have the layout in, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our surface in here. And for the surface, we're not going to XREF it, we're going to data shortcut it. So we're going to go over to the Tool Space Manager, and we're going to go down to where it says Data Shortcuts, expand surfaces, and then we're going to right-click on Finish Grade, and we're going to select Create Reference. And we're going to select the proposed contours 1 and 5 style, and hit OK. Okay, so now we have our surface in here, and we have our layout. So now we are ready to prepare the stakeout. So the first thing we're going to stake out is the building foundation. So for the building foundation, since we'll assume that it has a full foundation, we're going to do a 15-foot offset. If this was a slab on grade, we could probably do more like a 10-foot offset. But for the sake of the example, we're going to do a 15-foot offset. So the first thing I want to do is I want to draw a polyline on each side of the building. So we'll go on the top, the side, bottom, and the other side. Now, once we have the polylines around the building done, we're going to turn these into feature lines. And to do that, we're going to go up in the top ribbon. We're going to click the drop down on feature line, and we're going to create feature lines from objects. And we're going to go ahead and select the 4 polylines that we just drew. And right click. And we're going to keep it in site 1, that's fine. We'll put it on layer C topo feet. And then we're going to assign elevations and erase the existing entities. Hit OK. And then now we're going to get our elevations from the surface that we data shortcutted in, which is finished grade. And we don't want to insert intermediate grade breakpoints. What that does is it inserts a point along the feature line anywhere where there's a change in elevation. But all we want to do is have a point at each corner. So we're going to turn that off, and then we're just going to click OK. Okay, so now you can see that these are feature lines with elevations. And what we're going to want to do with each one of these lines, we're going to want to offset it the distance that we're going to be using for our stakeout, which in this example is 15 feet. So we're going to select the feature line. We're going to go over into the ribbon where the edit geometry is, and we're going to use a command called stepped offset. So go ahead and click that. I'm going to ask you for the distance, so we're going to go 15 feet. The side of the offset is going to be on the outside. We always want to offset the points on the outside of the foundation. Elevation difference is going to be 0 because we want it to be the same elevation that we're going to be staking out. Then we're going to offset the other 3 walls the same exact way. Whoops, that didn't work. Let's do that one more time. So we're going to select the feature line and we'll do a stepped offset 15 feet to this side. And we'll offset this one to this side and enter. Okay. So now we have our 4 walls offset at 15 feet. The next thing I want to do is I want to create the points. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the ribbon and we're going to, where it says point, we're going to hit that down arrow. And we're going to open up the point creation tools. All right. So you want to do is go ahead and hit this down arrow and that will expand the available options. So the layer, we're just going to put this on V node. Now, sometimes this won't expand all the way. You could hit the up arrow and then the down arrow again. And just drag it down. There we go. All right, so let's go through the options. So the elevations we're going to set to automatic because we're actually going to be grabbing the elevation from the feature line itself. If you wanted to enter these manually for any reason, you can by selecting manual. But we're going to go for automatic because our feature line does have the elevation we want. And the descriptions, we're also going to set that to automatic. And right here is where we want to enter our description. And for this, we're going to do a 15-foot O period S period for offset. So now anytime we add a point and we have the description set to automatic, it's going to grab this default description. It's going to make it a little bit faster. For disable description keys, we're going to change that to true. And by changing it to true, that enables us to change the point label style. So the style I'm going to be using is point number elevation description dragged, because typically when I do a stakeout plan, unless it's a grid, I'm going to want to drag these points outward and move them around so they can display properly in my stakeout plan. Then once you have that selected, you're going to go ahead and click OK. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to go through the point identities. So in order to not have any conflicts with existing survey points that may be inside the project already, I like to start my points from 10,000. So sequence numbers from 10,000. And then up here, next point number, that'll make sure that the first number that we have out there is 10,000, and then it'll sequence the points from the number offset by 1. So it'll be 10,001, 10,002, and so on. Okay, so now that we have that all set up, what we're going to want to do is we're going to hit this drop down arrow and we're going to set our points and we're going to do it on line/curve. So go ahead and click that. And now it's asking us to select an arc line, polyline, lot line, or feature line. So we're going to select the feature lines that we just created. So we'll start with the first one, select it, and then select the next one, the next one, and the next one. Right click. All right, so the points are very small because we haven't changed our scale on the bottom. So for this kind of drawing, probably a 10 scale would be fine, but you would really want to set it to whatever scale your drawing is going to be at. That's what you'd want to set these to. This way, when you move them around and drag them, you know how they'll display once you XREF it into your drawing. So you could see here, it did grab the elevation from the feature line. We could double check that by just doing a quick elevation edit on the feature line. You can see right here, 32.381, and that's what we have on our point. So it's just a quick little check to make sure your points were reading right. And then we can drag this up. And we're going to go ahead and drag the other ones out of the way. And you could also see that the numbers go by increasing by 1 each time, which means it did everything correctly. Okay, so now that we have those points, we could go ahead and delete these feature lines because we no longer need them. And something else I like to do is I like to add an arrow that points from the point to the corner in which it's staked out, or the feature that it's staked out for. So to do that, we're going to go up to the top menu, go to Insert, and we're going to insert the Stakeout arrow block. So we're going to put this right at the corner. I just like to zoom in and make sure that it's actually snapped to the corner, which it is. And we can select this Stakeout arrow, and in the properties, the distance, I'm going to set this to 15. So that extends the arrow right to where our point is. Perfect. Then I want to put this to each other point. So we'll go to Home and we'll use the mirror command to mirror these around the foundation. Then we'll copy this and we'll give it a rotate of 90 degrees and move it to the corner. Just like that. And we'll do the same thing with this one. We'll mirror it. Mirror these two. All right, perfect. So right there, that's the foundation all staked out. We have 4 corners, and that's now done. The next thing we want to do is we want to move on to the parking lot. So the parking lot stakeout, what we typically do is we stake out to face of curb with the top of curb elevation. So in order to grab my top of curb elevation, I'm actually going to trace over the cyan colored line, which is the back of curb, which will have my top of curb elevation. So I'm going to draw a polyline. There it is. I'm going to skip the radius. Now, the reason I'm doing each segment separately is so we can get 2 points for each corner, because that's how you'll stake out a corner, is 2 90-degree points. Okay, so these are fairly short runs we have. It's a small parking lot. If you had a longer run, you could add some points here. So what I'll do as an example is I'll just go to this and I'll add a vertex at the midpoints of each of these curve lines. And the reason I'm doing this is because when we go to add the points to our feature line, it'll automatically have a vertex at this point, and it'll add a point without us having to do anything. So it just kind of makes it a little bit easier for us to get our points. Okay, so now that we have all our curve lines delineated with a polyline, we are going to, again, go up to the feature line in the ribbon, hit the down arrow, and create feature lines from objects. Once we select that, we're going to go around and we're going to select each polyline that we just drew. Okay, once they're all selected, we can right click and hit enter. Keep it in site 1. Layers fine. Okay. And we want to do elevations from surface again, and we only want an elevation at each vertex that we set, which we did. We don't want to check insert intermediate grade breakpoints or relative elevation surface. Once you have that done, you can click OK. And there's our feature lines. And again, you could go into the properties, just double check that it does have elevations and it grabbed them, which it looks like these did. So for curb, what we do is we do a 5-foot offset from face of curb with the top of curb elevation. So now for these feature lines, we're going to offset them 4.5 feet because we have a 6-inch thick curb. So we're going to do a stepped offset again, which you select the feature line and then go up to the top ribbon in the edit geometry section and you click stepped offset. For the distance, we're going to go 5 feet this time for the curve, and we're going to offset to the backside. Oops, I'm sorry. We should have offset that 4.5 feet. So let's do that again. Stepped offset 4.5 feet to this side. Elevation difference is 0. And we're going to do that to all the other feature lines that we created. Okay, so now we have our feature lines offset by 5 feet. Okay, so what we want to do is now we want to add the points to these feature lines. So we're going to hit our down arrow under the Create Points menu. Again, if for some reason you closed out of this menu, you just go right up to the ribbon, hit the drop down arrow under Points and Point Creation Tools. Then we're going to expand this menu by clicking the down arrow, and all of our other settings will be held. And you'll notice that the point identity, the next point number, will just follow along with where we left off. So you don't have to change anything here for the next group of points. But one thing we do want to change is we want to change this to 5 foot and then O period S period for offset, because now we're offsetting 5 feet for the curb instead of 15 for the foundation. Once this is done, we can go ahead and do the same command, which we're going to add points on line / curve. We'll select this feature line, and just keep going around the parking lot. I like to go in a clockwise motion. Okay, so now we have all our 5 foot offset points for the curb. And what I would like to do now is take these arrows. So we'll just copy one from the corner and we'll move it down to here. And now this time instead, we're going to be doing a 5 foot. So we tweak that. Sorry. Move it to this corner, face of curb. For some reason, I couldn't use select. Okay, good now. And we'll move it to the face of curb. And now you'll see that the 5 foot offset meets perfectly with our points. So we're going to copy this corner, this one. Now you'll see that we do have a midpoint point because we added that vertice when we made the polyline. So now we want to add here. Okay, go down here. We'll rotate this 180 degrees and move it to the face of curb. And we're just going to copy this, each of our points. And then we'll rotate this one 90 degrees. Now, one thing we will have to do is just move this point. And to move it without messing up the elevation, after you hit the move command, you type .xy, select the location of the point, and then we go back to here for the elevation. And now you see that this elevation held at 32.31 and matches the other point for this corner. And we'll do the same thing for here. So we're going to go ahead and click the point to move it, and we're going to hit .xy. And we're going to go to right here with an elevation from here. And there we go. Now we're going to take this arrow and we'll mirror it to the other side of the parking lot. Enter. Make sure, yep, it's in the correct spot. And now at this corner, we'll do the same thing. So we're going to grab it from the grip, and we're going to do a move with .xy, move it to here with the elevation from the original spot. And you could again see that our elevation matches, so the elevation held. Same thing with this one. We're going to copy this arrow down to this corner. We'll move this arrow here. And we'll move this point again. Again, just grab it from the grip. Type .xy. Select the new location and then the old location for the elevation. Same thing for this point. Good. So we'll take this arrow. We're going to mirror it now to the other side of the parking lot. Hit enter. I'm going to move this arrow to here. Perfect. And then we'll move the point again. Just take the grip, type .xy, new location, and then the old location for the elevation. Do it up here. And then we're going to copy this arrow and just move it up to here. Okay, so now we are done with these feature lines. We could go ahead and select them and then just delete them out of the drawing. Perfect. All right, so now we just want to drag our points away from the arrow again. I just realized I deleted the arrow here, so I'm going to copy this one up. Paste it. And I missed an arrow down here. There we go. Okay, so the last thing that we are going to have to do, oh, just missed another arrow, hold on. So we're going to copy this one, and we're just going to go ahead and copy it to here. Okay. Okay, so the other thing that we want to stake out now is we have two radiuses, one here and one here. So we're going to take another arrow, we're going to copy it, and then we're going to rotate this 45 degrees. Copy this arrow. Oops. Here. We're going to rotate this degrees. Okay, now we want to add two radius points here and here. So what I'm going to do is, instead of having a description say 5 foot offset, I want to get the radius of this. So let's see what there is the radius of this curb. So it's a 5 foot radius. So we're going to change this description to R equals 5 feet. And now we're going to do random points on the surface. And we're going to select one here and select one, oops, sorry, backside of curb. And now, since we did face of curb on this one, we got to move it to the back side. And since the elevation went to 0, what we're going to do is we're just going to select the point, and then we're going to go up to our ribbon and select elevations from surface. And then we're going to select selection. And there we go. Now our point has the correct elevation. So we're going to move this same way we did the other points. Type in .xy, select the new location, and then the old location for the elevation. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing down here. .xy, new point location, old point elevation. Just move this around so it's a little more legible. I'm going to drag this up. Okay, so there you have it. That is all the stakeout points we need to lay out both the building and the parking lot. And that's it. That's simple and easy. So thank you for watching. Hope you learned something from this, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.